So today we learn about Pottery Mound Pueblo. Pottery Mound Pueblo is about 700 years old and not much is known about it. All it is a ruins now. Archaeologists are digging up and barely trying to find out what they can about it. But what they have found is what makes this place most interesting to me. Now this place is also mysterious because what they found has given evidence that many of the Native Americans from the various Pueblo tribes came together and lived here in one place. Now the reason this is mysterious to me is because pre-Spanish colonial New Mexico, before the Spanish came, the Native American Pueblos were known to have their own Pueblos. They were separated between the Rio Grande Pueblos and the Western Pueblos. Acoma, Zuni, and the Hopi reservations were pretty much the Western Pueblos. The Rio Grande Pueblos were pretty much the rest of them, just to make it basic. That's how they divide the Pueblos. But we've never known them to come together in one place and be one, or whatever. We don't even know what's going on over there because they're barely undigging this place. And the archaeology is early in its infancy. So Pottery Mound Pueblo is located south of Albuquerque and west of Las Lunas on the Rio Puerco. It's in Valencia County, New Mexico. It's about 32 kilometers south of Las Lunas, to be kind of exact. Pottery Mound got its name from all the pottery shards that were littering the place. Pottery Mound also has the largest prehistoric pottery styles and designs found in any one place in New Mexico. Most amazing thing found at Pottery Mound was in the buried kivas. They found well-preserved wall murals in more than a dozen different kivas and more than a dozen different styles of design. So historians believe that Pottery Mound Pueblo was built around 1320 and abandoned around 1500. But there's UNM students who are studying the pottery that was found at Pottery Mound, and they seem to disagree. Based on the pottery styles, they know how to place time periods, the way the pottery was made, the way the rims was formed, just certain ways. So after studying all the pottery shards at Pottery Mound, they came to believe that it could have lasted into the 1500s and maybe even into the early 1600s. But we really don't know. Like I said, it's in its early infancy. There's researchers and students at UNM that are studying on it. Archaeologists are undigging it, and we'll find out more in the future probably. Pottery Mound Pueblo was located on the boundary between the Rio Grande Pueblos and the Western Pueblos. Isleta was to the east, Laguna was to the northwest, and Acoma and Zuni to the west. So at the time that Pottery Mound was built, around the 1300s, the early 1300s, it was a time of great migration and movement in the southwest. The weather was changing, which was causing people to move. Other native people would come across other native people, and there was a language barrier because they spoke different languages, so that would cause clashes. Also, religious and cultural differences led them to clash, also leading to migration. So at that time, what is now New Mexico, the land used to belong to the Apaches, the Utes, and the Navajo mostly, the Comanches a little bit, but mostly the Utes, the Apaches, the Navajo. This was their home. The Anasazi, who are the Pueblo's ancestors, were more to the north, at the northern tip of New Mexico and southern tip of Colorado, where Pueblo Bonito is at, that area. Anyway, as these migrations were happening, the Anasazi started to move south, and as they moved south and started settling along the Rio Grande, almost right behind them, the Utes, the Navajos, and the Apaches moved into their area, so they kind of switched off. So now you had the Pueblos in New Mexico, and then you had the Apaches, the Utes, and the Navajos north of them. They kind of traded places in a way. And during this time of great migration, the Pueblos were built, including Pottery Mound Pueblo. So historians say that during its 200 or so lifetime, Pottery Mound Pueblo saw migrations from Acoma and Zuni overlapped by migrations from the Hopi. So there was some pottery that was imported from those areas that they brought with them, but most of the pottery found at Pottery Mound was produced at Pottery Mound. And a lot of the pottery made at Pottery Mound has also been found at locations all throughout the Southwest. But in the excavations at Pottery Mound, archaeologists found that at one section of the Pueblo, they had more Acoma and Zuni design than any other. While at another section of the Pueblo, it had more Tusayan design. Now, Tusayan is a place in Arizona. There are also significant amounts of Rio Grande pottery shards scattered throughout the area. So this shows that many different people from different Pueblos were here at the same time. So the question now becomes, why would all these different people from all these different Pueblos have came together and built this place? Why would they have lived here, or what was this place? Some historians believe that it could have been an artist colony. Some say maybe it was a spiritual center, maybe both. My guess is maybe it was like a trading hub, like a trading post, kind of like a trading colony in between Pueblos. And not much is known about Pottery Mound Pueblo. You gotta understand, the Puebloans didn't have a written language. They didn't have any system of writing anything down before the Europeans came, before the Spanish came. All we have is petroglyphs, pottery, and other footprints they left behind. Archaeologist Frank C. Hibben barely started excavating Pottery Mound Pueblo in 1954. I know that's about almost 75 years, but still, it's still in its early infancy. I mean, we don't find clay tablets like you do on the other side of the world that you could read. We don't find scripts of written things that they wrote down. All we find is pottery, petroglyphs, and we could just make our guesses and analyze from what we find, and that's all archaeologists and historians can do. According to this paper I was reading, Pottery Mound Pueblo remains poorly studied, underpublished, and largely neglected. So excavations at Pottery Mound Pueblo uncovered 3 types of rooms. Domestic rooms for both habitation and storage, kivas, and ceremonial rooms. The ceremonial rooms contain ceremonial artifacts. They don't know much about it, but they're still studying, trying to figure out. They recovered over 4,000 pieces of pottery, which they're currently studying. From 1954 to 1962, excavations by Frank C. Hibben uncovered 3 superimposed Pueblo structures, with several of the rooms containing remarkably well-preserved murals. Now, I looked for pictures of the ruins that they found of these structures, but I couldn't find any. But I did find this recreation of what it would have looked like when it was built. Anyway, so this was a big pueblo. It was an actual pueblo with kivas, and we just don't know nothing about it. So archaeologist Frank C. Hibben found that Pottery Mound was home to diverse Puebloan characteristics from both the Rio Grande Pueblos and the Western Pueblos. In other words, they found evidence that people from all these different Pueblos had lived here in one place at one time. Like I said, they found kivas with layers of murals. Like in other words, somebody painted one mural in the kiva, like one tribe, and they probably worshipped and prayed or whatever they did in that kiva, and then another tribe painted their mural over that one, and then another one and another one. So they found layers painted over and over of different Pueblo tribes. Now, like I said, there's not much known about Pottery Mound Pueblo. We know who lived there. Well, we know about at least who kicked it there. We found there evidence of different Pueblo people from different tribes being there at one time. And that's pretty much all we know right now. When you look for it on the internet, you might find a couple papers, but it's not much. But what you will find is a link to a book that you could buy that Frank C. Hibben wrote. It's called New Perspectives on Pottery Mound Pueblo. I haven't read it yet, but it is on my wish list, and I will read it. And after I read it, I'll come back and make another video, and we'll see what I found out. Anyway, that's the story of Pottery Mound Pueblo in central New Mexico. This is Tragedy. I hope you learned something new. Thank you for watching. I'm out.